Presence of mind and transformation. So when we talked about the CARE movement or the CARE model, we have mentioned it in the basic course, we've mentioned it yesterday, and I'm going to mention it again today, because what we're really looking at is I think a very elegant but incredibly simplistic way of, and complete way of reminding all of the electrical information across the entire range, and we are comprehensively and adaptively training that brain for a renormalization process. And it seriously does not matter, as we've talked about 1,000 times now, about diagnosis and condition. So what's so is also considered the now or the present moment. Lao Chao is another Chinese Buddhist who says that if you are depressed, you are living in the past. If you're anxious, you're living in the future. But if you are peace, if you are in peace, you are living in the present moment. So it's really, Neuroptimal is totally about disrupting the process of recreating the past trauma. And the trauma doesn't need to be trauma like many of you that are trauma therapists. It could be trauma in terms of, you know, an event that was a not even a one-time traumatic event, but more of a, you know, having dyslexia or having auditory processing problems, or, you know, I mean, any of your conditions, your symptoms, your characteristics of any disorders can also be thought of as trauma. So it's the repeating patterns of attachment and ignorance. You're attached to your story, you're being ignorant because you are not allowing that story to be finished. You are deliberately allowing it to continue on. And so it comes back to the present moment to be with what is present in this moment. So it's important to be here and now versus looking backwards or forwards. So the way to re-perceive this is to look more globally, to look at a worldview, to break the story up, to look at it in a way that is more obscure and less the exact same story over and over and over again. To step back and to you know, to get away from that habitual perception that you had before. So all we call of all the things that we call a disorder, it's simply not being present to what's so. So by releasing that story, we are inherently and essentially letting go of any kind of ignorance. And without that awareness or understanding of doing so, and this doubled ignorance makes it extremely challenging and entangling. It will help the very most of everything that Neuroptimal does is to interrupt and to bring that person back to the present moment. And that is the underlying philosophy of Neuroptimal, is that we need that ability to have the flexibility to move from past to present to future to present again, is being able to come back to the present no matter what. So with that in mind, we don't have to work through issues. And I swear I've had at least 3 different trauma therapists that I have worked with that I've mentored through this process. And in every case, they seriously have dropped what they typically do in their office altogether, because they understand that there might be a little residue left at the end, but for the most part, the neurooptimal process is helping them work through that so much faster than anything that we have in terms of words can do. So all we have to do is to interrupt that learned, lived process of recreating what isn't present. Because remember, that is exactly what they are doing, is trying to recreate what is not there. They're trying to continually stay in the past, and that is hard work. The CNS detects that interruption and then perceives, realizing that there is no danger, and it relaxes back into the safety and aliveness of the present, of being here and now. Oh, look, there's my husband.
Where? One on the left?
So listen to your internal dialogue and what you're telling yourself. Listen to your client's dialogue and help them listen to their own internal dialogue. Do your own sessions on a regular basis and be the story that you want others to be. You know, we're just constantly surrounded by sad stories. You know, and in a dynamical system, one of the 4 control systems are to entrain and migrate. If your client base is a population of people that are honestly leaving you feeling depleted, depressed, or anxious, it may be that your dynamical central nervous system is migrating towards that feeling. Do your own work. Keep your own internal dialogue clean and upbeat. If you hear yourself and you hear that you're not upbeat, let's untie that knot. Let's make sure that your inner dialogue turns out to be confident and assertive and just upbeat. And you do that by doing your own sessions. So restoring our intrinsic self-organizing and self-regulating capabilities. And we do that when we address the causes and conditions that create suffering. And suffering does not arise and therefore does not need to be overcome or treated. Val will tell the story of he had to have open heart surgery when he was a relatively young man. I think he was 30, 32, something like that. And he tells the story that he does not have to relive the actual pain of that surgery to know that that surgery was painful. And events are the same way in his mind. You do not have to relive any of those events. They're re-triggering. They get to the point where you cannot overcome them. You cannot treat them. You cannot do anything because you are constantly re-triggering the event. So our natural, intrinsic, self-organizing, self-regulating capabilities work as designed when given the opportunity. By restoring resilience and flexibility, regardless of what originally caused or conditioned that suffering. And that has been Val's belief system and his mission through this entire process of 25, 26 years, is using the ability that he knows to bring people back to what is now, so that he is able to help people let go of their perceived threats. When we address those causes and conditions that create suffering, suffering does not need to arise, and therefore does not need to be overcome or treated. Our natural, intrinsic, self-organizing, self-regulating capabilities work as designed, restoring resilience and flexibility regardless of what originally caused or conditioned the suffering. And neurooptimal process is really seriously that simple. All we have to do is give the information to the central nervous system about what it just did and or about to do, and the client's life absolutely transforms.